What is up, guys? Welcome to Coffee Confidential. My name is James. I am a hospitality veteran. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I also have two small businesses. So one of those is a mobile coffee business. So there are two setups involved with this. There's a coffee trailer, like a big walk-in caravan style one, and then I also have a coffee cart. The second business I have is a farmer's market business. So what I'm going to walk through today is for you guys who've never, well, let's say that you want to start your own mobile coffee business. So this is my advice to you for stepping into that world. If you're thinking about it, you're planning it, you don't know what the fuck to do, I'm here to help you. So the first thing that you need if you are going to go down the coffee business route is commitment. So you need to commit at least, I would say, minimum 2 years, right? Because you're not going to see the payoff within the first 12 months of all the hard work that you're putting into it. You just won't. Like maybe you'll open and you'll be busy every day from the first day you open and you've won the absolute jackpot. But I think for the most part, people have a lot of failures. They have a lot of bad days. They have a lot of wet weather days. They have events that aren't what they're supposed to be. And so you really need to give it 2 years. So my suggestion would be, if you can't give it 2 years, save your money. Put it in something else. Put it in stocks. Put it in, something that isn't a business, because businesses require commitment. There is no half measures. The thing is that all of your competition is fully committed. They've been doing it for years. They are established. They are in the process. So for myself, I've been making coffee for 15 years now. Non-stop, every year, full-time hours, 15 years. Just about, anyway. My business started very small. So I started back in 2016 with a coffee cart. And the great things about coffee carts is that the cost of entry is low. You could get a setup for maybe $5,000, and that sets you on the path of whether you want to keep going, you enjoy it, whether you think the workload's worth it. You can find out how much money you actually make at events and all that sort of thing. That was 7 years ago. So I'm going to tell you my rough figures from the first sort of 5 to 6 years in business. The first year in business, my revenue was $10,000. My second year in business, it was $20,000. My third year was 40. My fourth year was 80. My fifth year was 110. It took me 5 years to crack $100,000. And part of the reason for why it took so long was because I was working a job during the week. So that revenue grew over time, and it wasn't until 2019, so I'd been doing it 2016, 17, 18, 19, just about 4 years before I decided to say, hey, this is what I actually do now. From that $110,000 a year, I went to $150,000 a year. And then this year will hopefully be higher than that. One of the things that you learn is how to make more money. And you can't figure out how to make more money until you've started learning how to make money in the first place. So as much as you might love the idea of running a coffee shop or a coffee trailer or whatever it is, you need to learn how to make money. Not get paid by an employer and keep your employer happy. You need to understand the concept of what it means to make money. And I'm going to tell you, there are 2 key ingredients with an honorable mention. There are 2 key ingredients to making money if you are a coffee service. Those 2 ingredients, 1 is product, 2 is service. Honorable mention goes to location. So if we break that down, what that looks like. 1, product. There is unlimited number of coffee shops around. There's shitloads of them. And yet everyone seems to say, oh, I can't find a good coffee anywhere. They'll go to the same place repeatedly over and over again because they know that the quality that they're going to get is good. So when I say product, what goes into that? So you've got things like your actual coffee brand that you use. If you use budget, low quality coffee, you will have a budget, low quality product. That's fine if that's who your market is. So for example, McDonald's would use a low quality product. They are not relying on high quality to get people there. They are relying on convenience, that they can get it in a very short amount of time, and they don't have to get out of their car either. They just want to drive through, get the product, drive away. They don't care about the quality of it. It's not the same as like a boutique fine dining cafe or restaurant that needs that high quality to reflect their brand. Macca's is fast food, so it can use a low quality coffee. There are different tiers to coffee as well. So you can use a low budget, low quality coffee. So I'm in Australia. A low quality coffee would cost you somewhere around the $20 to $25 a kilo mark. That's in the lower quality of coffee. And the way that's determined is how many beans are in the blend, what quality the beans are, who roasts them, how many steps it takes to get from the farm to that coffee bag in your coffee trailer. That's how the price is determined, as well as import-export costs and all the rest of it. A medium tier coffee would be in that $25 to $35 sort of dollar price range per kilo. A medium quality coffee is going to be a crowd pleaser for the most part. You will get most people saying, hey, this is really good coffee, because it's better than all the shit coffee out there. So if you're going to start a coffee trailer, don't use the lowest quality shit that you can, because people will come and try it once and they won't come back again. Use a decent quality product. So in that medium tier range, you will also get some benefits from the coffee supplier. Depending on who your coffee supplier is, so some of the big ones in Australia or in Brisbane, you've got people like Merlot, you've got DeBella, you've got Campos, Fonzie Abbott, St. Ali. There's literally hundreds of coffee companies. So the one that I use is called Genovese. I love them. I used to be a coffee rep for them for 5 years. So my benefit here is that I know exactly how that product works. I know how to put it in the grinder. I know what dose I'm getting out. I know what to look for in extractions. I know all of these things. So I know the quality of the product that's going out the door. If you've never used a product before, you're gonna need to take some time to learn how to make that product time and time again with consistency and get the highest quality out of it. I learned that when I was being a coffee rep. I learned that being a barista on a machine for over a decade. So whenever I put a coffee out, I know that it's going to be quality. When you sort of hit that price mark, or you go for one of these coffee companies as well, one of the benefits is that they might offer you equipment. So some coffee companies will give you machines or grinders on loan, provided that you use their coffee. And they might say, hey, you need to order minimum 20 kilos a week from us and we will give you a free coffee machine. Now, depending on what you are, if you're a mobile coffee shop, 20 kilos a week is a pretty tall order, depending on how many days that you trade. I only trade 2 days a week. And so what that means is typically in a weekend, I'll turn over between 15 and 18 kilos of coffee. Now that's pretty fucking good. I'm quite happy with that at the moment. That's a great turnover. I do want to get it up. Like, I'm never ever satisfied. I think that's one of the things about being in business, is you need to look at all of your flaws and be real about them and say, well, I need to make an improvement here, an improvement here, an improvement here, and make that product the best that it possibly could be. The other option with equipment, I would always try and buy equipment rather than have it on loan, because the thing is, if they say, hey, you need 20 kilos a week, let's say that you're a hole in the wall coffee shop, that's fine, that seems pretty reasonable. You can probably turn over 20 kilos most weeks. And then what happens, maybe you hit a lull for a month and you're only going through 10 or 15 kilos a week, but you still have to take that 20 from the coffee supplier. So at the end of the month, you might have 30 kilos of coffee stored up there, and at the start of the next month, guess what? You've still got to take 20 kilos of coffee. And so all of a sudden that machine starts, it's the issue with leasing machines, basically, having online machines. Now, the other option with equipment would be to buy secondhand. I would thoroughly recommend this option. Call up your coffee suppliers, so the big ones in your area, and ask them if they have any commercial coffee machines for sale within your budget. So that might be $2,000 or $4,000 or whatever it is for your startup cost. Talk to coffee suppliers, because I guarantee you they will have a warehouse full of secondhand equipment that they don't use anymore, that has come back from cafes, that they would love to get rid of. And it might just take you a couple of hits before you actually find a coffee supplier that has equipment within your price range. But that would absolutely be an awesome way to go about starting a coffee trailer. Just underneath that, I've seen a lot of people posting about, hey, can I use my Breville for a coffee cart? Can I get this tiny little $800 coffee machine? You can do it that way. You're sitting in the bottom 1% of people, though, if you're doing it. Everyone around you will have a higher quality coffee machine. And that's not to say that they're going to succeed and you won't. But if you do start with that, it's going to be really, really fucking hard. Because you can't produce the same quality of coffee. Even if you get the good beans and you buy an $800 coffee machine, it's not going to do the same job as a commercial machine. So those, when I was talking about wholesale machines, that $2,000 to $4,000 range, back when they first came out, they would have been, $8,000 to $10,000. And the same as a used car, they depreciate over time, but the quality that they put out is still really, really good. So I would try and veer away from low quality coffee, and I don't want to say cheap coffee machines, but coffee machines that are just for domestic use for the most part. An $800 coffee machine a lot of people have in their house now. And I think that's one of the things about the mobile coffee industry, is there's so many home baristas that say, oh, I love making coffee at home. How good would that be to do for a job? You don't realize the amount of shit involved in starting a mobile coffee trailer. And that's me saying it how it is. So let me get back to the point. I've tangent quite a lot. Product. You need to put out a quality product every time. You can't do that with poor product or poor equipment. So best to start out somewhere in the middle of the road where you can upgrade later. Don't say, oh, I'll upgrade in a month or two. Just start at that. So figure that out in your budget. The other big one is milk. Make sure that you're not using shit quality milk. In Australia, you've got home brand stuff, so that'd just be like the Coles and Woolies brand label milk. I wouldn't really use it. Go for something that next sort of tier up. So you've got things like Dairy Farmers, Norco, Paul's, and then above that, the highest tier, you would have organic milk. So things like Mullaney and Baramba are massive around Brisbane where I am. I'm not sure what the other organic milk companies are, but it just makes such a big difference in the quality of the coffee. Also, if you go for a really high tier quality coffee bean, so let's say it's around the $40 a kilo mark, like that's really up there, and then you go and get Coles or Woolies milk, you're not going to get the full yield of quality from that product because you're using subpar milk in it. So make sure that you're using something that matches the quality of coffee that you're using. When it comes to product, I think one of the big things is consistency. People need to know that they're going to get a really similar product every time that they come to your shop. So if you're there every day and you know how to use the product and you're proud of the product that you're putting out, then the consistency and quality will be good. If you don't plan on being there and you have baristas in the shop and you just let them do what they want, the quality will drop because they don't care about it as much as you do. Now, they might be really skilled and talented and put good product out, but there needs to be some sort of mechanism in place where you make sure that quality is still there. So if they burn the milk and they go, oh, fuck, it's busy. Like, I don't want to steam that milk again. I'm just going to pour the coffee and send it out. They're letting shit coffee out the door. And what I find typically happens, if you're a customer at a cafe, you walk in and you may, if you get a shit coffee once, you'll still go back there. You'll be, oh, that was a bit mediocre today. I'll try again in a couple of days or whenever I next need my coffee. If you get 2 bad coffees in a row from the same establishment, you're going to start thinking about other coffee shops that are nearby that might give you a better coffee. If you get 3 bad coffees in a row as a customer, you're not returning to that establishment. It's kind of like 3 strikes, you're out rule. So if the coffee's not great, you can only really give someone a bad coffee 3 times before they're going to stop being a customer. And obviously that's not a hard and fast rule, but I think that's something that should sit in your mind as to what you're putting out. So whenever I'm pulling shots or I'm doing milk, if I make the milk too hot, if the shots don't run to the recipe, you know, they run too fast, run too slow, then I'm going to throw it straight down the sink. I go through a fair bit of wastage, and that adds up in my product cost, and I see that, and that's something that I need to manage better. However, I think it's always better to tip out the product and start again, because if you give that customer a shit coffee, then it's cost you $5 a week, every week, for the next year, 2, 3 years. Whereas if I get a bad shot and I throw it out, it's cost me 50 cents on the day. And when I say I go through a lot of wastage, I might do that, 10 or a dozen times in a day. Sometimes more, sometimes less, depends on the day and the service and all that sort of thing. But the consistency and quality is there to retain that customer. All right, I think that's a little overview of product anyway. Make good coffee. That's all it is. Make good coffee, have good coffee, and make good coffee. That is all you need to do. If you're not making good coffee, practice. Throw it out. If you've never started, or if you've never worked in hospitality before, let's say you're someone that's on a awesome Monday to Friday 9 till 5 job. You've got this extra money sitting in the bank. You want to start a business. You're a home barista and you say, I really like making coffee. I want to start a coffee business. I want to start doing farmers markets or events or festivals or whatever it is that you want to do. Before you spend $5 or $10 or $20 or $50,000 on a business that you've never participated in before, go and work nights at a restaurant. Go and work weekends at a coffee shop. It does not matter if you're doing dishes, if you're doing food prep, if you're waiting tables, it really does not matter. Because the thing is, that is the environment that you will be in. And just because you're working for yourself instead of someone else doesn't mean it changes that environment. That is the environment that you are in. And so go and do, it doesn't matter if it's a month at a restaurant. Before you open a coffee shop, if you've never worked in hospitality before, go and work in a restaurant. Because you might decide you absolutely hate it. You might find that the amount of people that are rude to you doesn't sit well with you and you can't handle it. You might find people demanding. And that kind of leads nicely into point number 2, which is service. Hospitality is a service-based industry. You're providing people a service. You're providing them food and drinks for their hard-earned money. There is an excess of options for where they could spend that money, and they have chosen to spend it with you. In return, their expectation is that you'll be pleasant to them, you'll communicate with them about what is happening, and that you're going to be friendly. And when they get that coffee and walk away, you're going to say, hey, hope you have an awesome day. So they walk away with that. It's a... I don't even know what to call it. I've lost my thought, but I hope that you guys can kind of understand the point that I'm trying to make here. So, service. When a customer walks up to your shop, do they go, hey, how you going? What can I get for you? Do they get that interaction? Do they feel engaged with? Because if you have someone that's there sitting on their phone, they're not interested, the customer has to get their attention, they're strike number one straight away. So why would they come to you when they can walk into a coffee shop down the road, and they walk in and there's 3 people waiting to sit them at a table or greet them at the counter? So you need to be on that level. So that customer walks up, they're ready to order. Can you take their order proficiently? I know that seems like such a silly little thing, but if you've never worked hospitality before and all of a sudden there's 5 people in a queue in front of you, and you go, oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now, I'm feeling flustered, I'm making mistakes because I'm overwhelmed. That's going to flow onto the product too. That's going to flow onto the people's perceptions of your business, whether they have confidence in it. So just to put some things in perspective, so typically what I do on a weekend, the market that I do on a Saturday, I will do approximately, what do? I do roughly between 9 and 12 kilos of coffee on a good day, and that equates to approximately just about 500 drinks, roughly, give or take. A slow day might be, 350 to 400. A crazy day would be like 550. Bear in mind, I have had that site for about 6 years now, and it's been pretty consistent, but it took a while to build up to that and get those customers there every single time, every weekend. But I can pretty much bank on at least 400 drinks on a Saturday morning. That takes a while to get used to putting out that sort of volume. It's a system, right? And so I'll have myself and minimum 2 staff, sometimes 3. So during winter, I put on 3 staff. During summer, I put on 2. And somewhere in the springtime is when I drop one of those staff members off. And the reason for that is because during winter, it's cold. Everyone wants a hot drink to warm up with. They want coffee. They want to feel, warm inside and get the day going and all that sort of stuff. During summer, I lose a lot of sales to juices, cold drinks, iced tea, and all those sort of other things. So what I was getting at is sometimes there will be a queue of 10 to 20 people there on a Saturday morning, and if you're not used to that, you will feel useless and hopeless and like you're fucking everything up. And the truth is because you are. You don't know what you're doing yet. And the only way to find out how to do it is to do the thing. The only way to find out that if you want to do it is to actually do the thing. I think I've got a little bit of ADHD and perhaps a touch of autism. So whenever I'm in those environments, like those really chaotic, high stress environments, I feel really calm, which is messed up. And I feel really chaotic when it's a calm environment because there's no stimulation there. And that's just some of my own personal unhealthy tendencies, basically. But I feel like that's a lot of hospitality people. Like there's a lot of misfits in hospitality. There's a lot of people who fell into it while they were studying. They didn't really know well, this is my story anyway. You fall into it while you're studying because the money's pretty good for a casual job, and it's flexible around those uni hours or whatever else that you're doing. And uni isn't really your thing, and you try something else and it's not really your thing. And then the constant was the hospitality job. That's my background and my story anyway. Not that that's the center point of this podcast. What are we talking about again? We're talking about service. Sorry, tangent, ADHD brain. So here we go. Back to service. So when people walk up to your coffee shop, trailer, coffee cart, whatever it is, do they have a positive impression is the biggest thing. And when they leave, do they have a positive impression? Those are kind of like the 2 elements of service that I would score on effectively. So when someone comes up, do they get their order taken promptly? Is it with a positive attitude? Do they get greeted? Can you ask sort of inquiring questions to make their order better for them as well? So, oh, I'll have a flat white. Okay, do you want sugar in that? It's such a little thing, but it's like, well, you've asked the question, you've communicated, because a lot of people will order the coffee and then put sugar in after, and it's like, hey, buddy, I could have done that for you. So it's all done when you get the drink. You don't have to worry about fucking around with a spoon and some sugar sachets. A lot of people that order long blacks, hey, do you want an ice cube in that? The amount of people that I offer that to and they go, oh, yeah, that'd be great. They haven't even thought about it before. Because what happens when you drink a long black, it's just boiling water and coffee. So you can't drink it for like 5 minutes and all you want to do is sip your coffee. But you know that if you do, you're going to burn your mouth off. And so if you drop an ice cube or some cold water in there, as soon as they get it, they can start drinking their coffee. So they've been greeted, they've had their order taken, they've paid, the order's gone in the queue, the product's being made, the coffee's being made, and then it needs to go back out as well. So that's the finishing touch of service, is when the customer receives their coffee. And one of the things that I always try and focus on is that coffee perfect the moment that they have their first sip? Because that's all they're going to think about really, is that first sip. So is the coffee hot enough? Was it too hot? Was it made well? Did it have everything in there? If they've ordered a cappuccino, did you forget the chocolate on top? Because that's going to leave this little negative feeling inside the customer. This is some of my perfectionistic tendencies taking hold as well, but these are all the things that I think about. And I am your competition right now, and I'm telling you what I think about, and I'm telling you how I do it, so that you guys can kind of understand what you're getting into and kind of like the level that it's at. And I don't even think I'm at the top level yet. I feel like I'm just starting out too. I feel really confident in the coffee business now that it's been established for X amount of years, and it's been full-time for 4 years now. 2020, 21, 22, 23. Yeah, I went full-time at the end of 2019, and there's been other little jobs and contract roles that I've done during the weeks to kind of fill out those 4 years, but for the most part, I have relied on that wage that I collect from the coffee business for 4 years. How did I divert here again from service? God, I'm useless. Oh yeah, I am your competition. That's right, we got there. So these are, let's recap there. So the two things that you need to start are product and service. You need a good coffee that's made well, and you need good service so that people feel good when they order and when they pick up their coffee. And that's it. If you do those two things well, you have a fighting chance of doing what you love or what you want to do. Those two things will, well, they won't guarantee success in any sort of way, but what they'll do is they're kind of like the pillars. So apart from that, you need to show up every week, you need to have the right amount of staff or people on. So if it's a one-person operation, you're limited to how many coffees you can sell. If you have 2 staff, you exponentially increase how many coffees you can sell. If you have 3, so on and so forth. So even though wages are a massive cost, they do have exponential benefit in that instead of walking away with $200 or $300 from an event, maybe you can walk away with $500 or $600 from an event. And then thirdly, what was third? We had location. So location is, I think, a really crucial component to whether you will succeed or whether you will get the coffee sales that you need, right? So things to think about with location. The first question I would ask with location is, could I get 100 customers per day in this location? So if you're thinking about operating Monday to Friday, or even on the weekends, it doesn't really matter. Could I get 100 coffees per day in this location? So 100 coffees is kind of like the bare minimum if you want to meet costs and take a little bit of money out. That's not even a good amount of money that you can take out. So can I do 100 coffees a day here? And so things that are going to impact or influence that will be, are there high-rise apartments around that are high-density living? Are there office blocks around that have, scores of people in them? Are you at a festival where it's got 30,000 people there? If you look at a location and you go, oh, well, look at all these cars driving past, there's thousands and thousands of them. You might get some of them. Don't rely on those cars for, don't think that all of them are going to stop in at your coffee shop just because you've opened doors in that location. One of the things that you have to understand is every time that you get a customer, you are taking a customer away from someone else. So if you open your coffee shop on a busy road or your coffee trailer and you go, look at all this traffic driving past, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to make so much money. Open on day one and see how many people stop. If you don't do any marketing, you just do sort of bare minimum signage, I don't think it's going to be that many. Because people don't have stopping at your coffee shop in their routine yet. They have stopping at a different coffee shop in their routine. And that is their habit. And for you to get those customers, you need to break their habit of going to a different coffee shop and get them into the habit of coming to yours. One of the ways that you'll get them to keep that habit is through a good product and good service. So location, things that work really well around locations, number one would be gyms. So a lot of people that like to take care of their body, they want to stay fit, they're up early, they want coffee. They want coffee before a workout or after a workout, doesn't matter. If you are next door to a gym, your conversion rate for their members into your customers might be like 20%. You might do really, really well out of their customers. Typically what I kind of expect, if I'm doing an event and they say, hey, there's 10,000 people here, I might get 5% of those people through my business. So that's just a very, rule of thumb sort of number. But budget for 5%. So if they say, hey, we've got 10,000 people here, all right, well, you might get 500 customers that day. Is that 5%? Yeah, 500 of 10,000. If they say, hey, we've got 1,000 people here today, you might only get 50 customers. You might get 200 as well. You might get 20% of those because it's at a farmer's market like I do. So one of the farmers markets that I also run is on a Sunday, and I only do half the amount that I do on my Saturday market. I probably only do roughly 5 kilos a day in that market. Sometimes it's 4 kilos, sometimes it's 6 or 7. It just really depends on what season we're in and what's happening that weekend and all that sort of stuff. However, I am the only coffee vendor there. Whereas at the other market, there are multiple coffee vendors. So at the Saturday market, I have competition. At the Sunday market, I have no competition. I have a captive audience. And so I would probably be somewhere up to around 40% of people that attend that market come to me for coffee. Granted, that's a small market. I might only do, what do I do there? I do roughly 200 to 250 coffees there. I'd like to get that number up a bit more. However, that's where it is at the moment. Anyway, location. So there's a lot of these influencing factors into what makes a good location. So is there high density buildings around you? That's a massive one. Is there street visibility? That's another massive one as well. So you might even be on a back street. The bare minimum, if you're doing that, is to put A-frames or signage or something on the next main road so that people that are driving around that area know that there is a coffee shop there. And maybe someone that's driving past goes, oh, fuck, I need a coffee. Oh, cool, let's pull in here. If you're on a main road, your location is really important. If you're on a main road, you could probably get a lot of those people driving past over time. But understand that it might take 3 to 6 months to get it to a point where you are happy with the sales. It might take even longer. It might take longer than that. That's just sort of a a rough time frame for what you are doing, okay? What else influences location? So one of the other things, let's say you're on a main road. There's an inbound and an outbound side of the road. If you're selling coffee, you will be set up early in the morning. In Australia, a lot of places trade 6 till 12, 6 till 2, 5 till 12, something in that sort of time frame, 7 till 3. Depends on the cafe and the clients and all that sort of stuff. If you're a coffee shop and you set up on a main road, however, you set up on the outbound side of the road, your sales will not reflect the fact that you are on a main road. So it's simply a matter of being on the wrong side of the street can fuck up all your sales basically. So let's say I'm a coffee shop on the inbound side of the road. I'm open from 5 a.m. till midday. All those people going inbound have the opportunity to just pull off, get a coffee, and continue on their route to wherever they are going on that morning rush. Maybe they have time, maybe they don't. Doesn't really matter. It is convenient enough that they can just pull in, stop, get out, get their coffee, get back on the road. If someone is in that morning rush, they're in traffic or they're on their commute to work inbound, they will not turn off, do a U-turn, get to your coffee shop, order their coffee, drive outbound again to come back inbound in that rush. It is too much of a hassle. It's inconvenient. If you had two coffee shops on opposing sides of the street that have the same product, same team, I guarantee you the one on the inbound side of the street would be miles ahead of the other one, purely because of what side of the street it is on. So that's sort of something to think about as well. Like, how does the flow of traffic actually get to your business? The other thing I would think about is how do you get people to know about your business? So let's say it's in a relatively good location. So you open the doors, maybe there's a dog park nearby, there's a bike track, there's a gym there, or two gyms even. And so you start getting this good little repetitive trade just from that community. So the people at the dog park, the people riding on the bike path, and then the members of those fitness communities that you're in front of. And let's say you get to 50 coffees a day or 80 coffees a day. I'm telling you this because this is literally exactly what I did. So I had my coffee trailer and I tried for 9 months to make a location work. I did Monday to Friday there and I did it for 9 months. And all of the ingredients seemed pretty good. So there was fitness there was a bike path, there was a dog park, and I was getting, within 3 to 6 months, I was getting about 50 to 80 customers a day. And so that's at the point where it's like, it's paying for, it's breaking even, essentially. You know, rent's paid for, coffee's paid for, milk's paid for, packaging's paid for. And I tried to grow it. And the way I tried to grow it was through things like free coffee cards. So I do a lap around, I think I gave out something like 500 free coffee cards into the houses around the area. So on one side it said free coffee at this location, and on the other side it had my business card. And I reckon out of the 500 that I gave out, I might have got 20 people show up and come and get a coffee. And some of those people turned into return customers. But just, I really hope you guys understand how difficult it is to attain customers, because you're trying to break their habits to other cafes, other coffee suppliers, and incorporate them into your world, which is no easy feat. It is fucking difficult. The other things that I would do would be things like Facebook advertising. I'd post to local suburb groups. So if I was in the suburb of Coorparoo, I'd post to the Coorparoo community page and say, hey, I'm here. And every time you do that, you are laying one brick in a wall. You are making one improvement. You might get one customer out of that. And what's actually happening is you need to make 1,000 of those improvements. And that's something that's really difficult to hear. So you need to give out those free coffees. You need to post on social media. You need to do Facebook advertising. You need to, talk to the local community. And it is when all those 1% efforts converge that your success will actually happen. Because it's a slow process to get there, and it hurts. It hurts like a motherfucker. I think that's about all I need to say on location. Really good events to do are farmers markets. Typically, you get people that they're out in the morning, they want a coffee, you get an early finish for the day, or for me, if I'm home and finish work by 2 o'clock, that's pretty good. I like that, but it also means that I wake up at around the 2:30 mark. So on those days, it's like sort of a minimum 12-hour day, which doesn't really affect me anymore. It just feels like a day's work. But that's the sort of thing that if you want to make good money out of it, then that's the sort of effort that's required, the consistency that's required, the recipe that I wish someone told me. Or at least what I wish someone would tell me would be, it takes time, be patient, keep at it, commit for 2 years. And if you feel uneasy about committing to 2 years for something while it's not working, then save yourself the trouble. Save yourself the time and the money and the effort, and don't bother. But if you say, hey, I can do this, I want to do this, I will do this, I must do this, then go for it. Because in the first year, you'll have some really good profit days, like guaranteed. You'll have, if you put the work in, it will be guaranteed. So for me, if I make anything over $500 for a day, I consider that a really good day, because I can't really make that working for someone else. I have days that are a lot better than that. I have days that are a lot worse than that. Well, I don't want to say a lot worse. Like typically, I think in the last 6 months, I've only had one event that lost money for the most part, which is a pretty good track record. But even those are the ones that really hurt, or the low profit days, because what happens is, you do all your prep on a Friday, you get the coffee trailer loaded, you've done all your pickups, you get coffee or milk or packaging, or you've gone to the supermarket to get these things. My Fridays are blocked out purely for prep for the weekends. So it's not a massive job. It takes maybe about 6 hours on a Friday to get everything done. Depending on the weekend, it might take 8, 10, 12 hours though. And all those extra efforts are things that you could be putting into something else. That's a full day's work essentially. So have a really deep, hard think about it before you commit. So do those little things like go and work in hospitality. If you have worked in hospitality and you're good at it and you know what you're doing. So if you're from the hospitality side and then you want to get into the business side, go for it. Absolutely. Those are the sort of people that need to be doing it. That's who I am, by the way, so I'm highly biased. The other side of it is people who are business-minded, or they want to start a business and then choose the hospitality field. There's a lot of nuance and soft skills and experience that goes into a good hospitality business, like any business, and you'll have to learn those first if you want your business to succeed. So either you're a business person that needs to learn hospitality, in which case that's why I absolutely advocate for working at a restaurant, working in a cafe, just getting those skills up so that you don't go in blind to your own business and there's no one there to guide or train you either. If you're working in another person's business, A, you're getting paid to do it, and B, they're going to give you feedback and guidance on what you're doing well and what you're doing wrong. If they're a good company, that's what they should be doing anyway. I've lost my train of thought again. How did we get here? How did we get here? Well, I forget. So let's move on. I might wrap this episode up. So what did we talk about? We talked about secrets to having a hospitality business, and that is product and service with an honorable mention to location. Those are the three sort of key factors that you need to think about. I'm going to throw in some things that you don't really need to think all too hard about. That is the name of your business. That is what drinks you're going to offer, how much should my menu cost. Not in the first 6 months. Like all that stuff, you will work that out as you work in the business and on the business. You can do it from the start and get those aspects right to some extent, but I feel like they're a bit inferior. So if you have a beautiful menu and your name's real funky, but you have shit coffee and shit service, well, it's not really going to do much to get customers through the door or keeping that returning customer base, which is what keeps your business afloat. You know, don't sweat the small stuff. Make sure those big key ingredients are right first. So your coffee selection, how you treat people, your service, and also are you in a good location that facilitates a good amount of sales. You can always build sales. Oh, that's what I was talking about, how I fucked up my location. That was a while ago. Anyway, I will finish that story in a second. I'll finish it now, actually. So I was at that location and I was hitting 80 coffees a month. Not 80 coffees a month. I was doing about 80 coffees a day, rather. And I'd done 9 months there. And then I went to go and see my accountant. And I sat down with him and he just kind of looked over all the numbers and he just said, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? You know, if that Monday to Friday, I think I was making like profiting maybe $100 a day at that point. And he said, why are you doing it? So that's when I kind of realized I needed to take a step back from that approach. I stopped doing the Monday to Friday location. I focused on the weekends. I was infinitely happy after because what happened was I was still getting those high profit days from my Saturday and Sunday. I had Fridays to get ready and I had Monday to Thursday essentially open. So it gave me a bit more time to work on the business, and that's when I took sort of some casual or contract roles with other companies in the meantime just to help subsidize my income so that if I do have a bad week with the coffee trailer and that profit that I was expecting doesn't happen because event turnout was poor or low or it rains or you know what, you got a flat tire and you can't go anymore, all of a sudden all of that cash flow is lost and that affects the business in a really, really big way. So I think probably what I'll talk about on the next episode will be capital and financing and cash flow and all that sort of stuff. But I will leave it here for this episode. Please, guys, give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe to this. This is Coffee Confidential with James. I'm probably going to change that though. It's Jimmy. Yeah, let's do that. It's Coffee Confidential with Jimmy, and you can follow me on socials. So you can find Rumour Mill Espresso on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can find one of the markets that I own and operate at, which is Barden Markets, Bardon. They're Barden Markets on Facebook. On Instagram, you've got all new Barden Markets, and the website for that is www.bardenmarkets.com. If you want to come have a chat, see what I do, check it all out, flick us a DM, send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, peace.